Well, hey, thanks for joining me and agreeing to
Absolutely.
have a chat. I have been looking forward to kind of chatting with you because I want to get this out of the way first. I don't remember when or how I became aware of you. I know it's through StoryBrand, but I don't
Okay.
remember if the timing of any of it. When did you kind of get started with StoryBrand?
I I was a guide 18 to 24.
Okay, okay, that's definitely in the window. I think I was probably, let's see. I mean, it was definitely before the pandemic, which is forever ago. So that was probably like
Yeah.
2019, I think is
Okay.
when I got started. So I
Okay.
probably, maybe met you at some point or was on a call with you or
I'm sure.
met through some other guides or probably just ended up seeing some of the content that you were putting out
I
around
was
that
pretty
time.
active in there, so yeah.
Yeah. And so for people who don't know, StoryBrand is, I mean, how would you describe it? Because it's probably changed a little bit over the years, right?
Um so StoryBrand is built off of the Building a StoryBrand book that Donald Miller wrote, and it is a messaging storytelling framework that is meant to help businesses, nonprofits. I use it for churches, connect with their customers. I say it reframes you as the perfect solution for their problems. So instead of telling people how great you are, you actually set yourself up to solve the problems that your customers are facing. So it's a framework that can do a bunch of different stuff. Don has tried to do 1,000 different things with it.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of it, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's probably the best way to describe it because I've seen like over the years, he's come out with other books and other training programs. But yeah, you're right. The real framework, like underneath it all, hasn't really changed at all. That's kind of the point,
No,
right?
and it can be applied to. I mean, it can be applied to sales. It can be applied to marketing. It can be applied to lead. Like so many people that I work with, like we go through it and we get to like the process plan or the agreement plan. It's like we don't actually do this stuff yet.
Yeah.
So, and I've helped companies like we started rebranding to do it from an external standpoint and ended up redoing their mission, vision, values with newer language that, so it took their old language that was stuffy and no one understood
Mm-hmm.
and created stuff that was internal too. So yeah, it could be all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I also don't remember who even initially kind of recommended the book to me. I bought it, forever ago, and I just kind of started out doing some consulting work, and
Hmm.
because I've been doing marketing for 20 something years on the agency side, uh, or 10 years at the time, and the book kind of sat on my shelf for a while. I finally picked up and read it, and the I mean, everybody tells kind of the same story. I was kind of hooked by the simplicity of it, and that's what got me
I
into it.
actually became a guide without reading the book.
Really?
I had a friend get certified 6 months before I did, and I saw
Hmm.
some of his success, and I'm like, oh, because I was already doing some copywriting, I was already doing this stuff, but I wasn't charging for it.
Yeah.
So like I was trying to figure out like how can I was tired of building good looking websites with crappy content,
Hmm.
and so I was like, how can I? Because in 18, I signed up for training in like June of 18. I went in September. So I was in the third year of my business at that point. I had built something bigger than I thought I'd ever gotten to. I'd gotten
Hmm.
almost to six figures at that point. And actually, I think I may have crossed it. But I was tired of making the same website that looked good but wasn't actually good because the content sucked from the people I was getting, because clients were giving me content at the time.
Hmm.
And so when Kyler got certified and I saw what he was doing, I was like, oh, this is really good. So I went and got certified and was able to start adding strategy and copywriting and messaging to my services, which allowed me to take another jump in the business,
Yeah.
with doing essentially the same work. But what I tell people was what it gave me was a repeatable process that I could use over and over and over
Yeah.
instead of starting from scratch every single time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, this is probably the good segue into your kind of your story and your background. Because I want to talk a lot about healthy sports parents. This podcast that I started initially, was I wanted to talk to, founders across all sorts of different, industries, categories. That was sort of the goal at the beginning. But then as I sort of narrowed in on like a category, fam tech and family focused, mission driven
Uh-huh.
brands, you popped
Awesome.
up on you obviously popped on my radar because you're building this like really awesome thing around healthy relationship with sports and
Mm-hmm.
parents and kids and how to sort of navigate all that. So I want to get into that, but let's kind of maybe zoom out just a little bit and just kind of go a little bit in your background, how you got into, doing websites, doing marketing, and I guess ultimately those first couple steps that, got you on this path to building this thing for parents.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can go as far back as you want, but the genesis of it, I was a sophomore at Coastal Carolina University, which is in like right outside of Myrtle Beach. So I was 18 years old, living 15 minutes from the ocean. Loved going to school there, but Coastal was a party school of rich white kids from the Northeast who came down to the beach to party for 4 years. And
Yeah.
I have alcoholism on every branch of my family tree, so it wasn't something I was interested in. So while all my friends were out doing all that, I downloaded a bootleg version of Photoshop and started teaching myself Photoshop. This was in 2005. Ended up transferring schools and I got really hooked on graphic design. And I was a sport management major in college. But when I was working for the football team as an undergrad, kind of like a student assistant, and this was right before all of social started taking over with recruiting and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the coaches found out I was a graphic designer. So I'm making the internal graphics for the team, like notebook covers for playbooks. And like, I remember the first semester I worked there, the director of football operations came to me and wanted me to design the program for the senior appreciation dinner. And he just wanted like a 1-page thing. And I turned this into like an 8-page booklet. And I remember walking into the facility one day, and the way you came in downstairs, and that was the locker room and the training rooms, and up the stairs was where the offices were. And I'm walking up the stairs to the offices, and our head coach walks by. And I don't know if this guy knows me at this point. Like if he and Coach Rocco walks by, goes, "Big John, saw that program. That's big stuff right there. It's big stuff." Like that was 2006. So we're 20 years after that. It was April of 2006. So like we're literally 20 years later. And I remember him saying that to me.
Yeah.
And so worked for the football team for a couple more years, then the athletic department as the video guy. So the design stuff was always a part of what I did, like just my habit. But at the same time, I had this pull to go into the church world. So after seminary, I was in grad school as a seminary, as a grad assistant. I went and worked at a church for 4.5 years. And when I first went in, I was like the number 2 in the high school ministry. But a big part of that job was graphic design and the tech side of the things. And so year and a half into that, the creative director for the church leaves, and I get hired as the creative director for a 1,800 person church at 24 years old or something like that. And so I'm doing all the graphic design, all the communications, all the marketing, all of those things for this big giant church that has 7 services every weekend. That ended up flaming out. And so they got to the point where, candidly, it was October of 2014. They came to me and said, "Hey, we want to move you from salary to hourly and cut your pay essentially by $10,000 a year." And I'm like, "We just found out we're pregnant a week ago with our first kid. So that's not going to work for me." And so we ended up working it out. And 2.5 months later, with no savings at all, I went out on my own to start Carone Designs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started initially as a graphic designer wanting to work mainly with churches and small businesses. Quickly realized there's no money in graphic design. And so pivoted to, I'd done some WordPress stuff before. So I was like, I could do these WordPress websites. So I started doing that and picked it up, found some processes that I got really good at really quickly and started offering that. So that was January 2015. We already talked by middle of 2018. I had built it to 6 figures and was wanting more. And so added the StoryBrand stuff 2018 and have been doing messaging, copywriting, websites, and logos ever since.
Yeah. And during that time, did you have kind of like a niche client or type of client that you worked with, or what were some of the better clients you remember having on your plate?
So about 50% of my business to this day is still churches and nonprofits.
Mm.
So I love working in that space. I did a lot of white label work, and this is where StoryBrand really helped because there were so many people in the community who were copywriters or strategists or different types of marketers who weren't interested or didn't have the capabilities of building websites. So they would come to me and I would give them a discount on my rates and build the website underneath their business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has ranged anywhere from 10 to 50% of my business, depending on the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still do that with some of the guides that I met years ago. I had an
Yeah.
email this morning from somebody. I build the websites for their agency.
Mm-hmm.
So that those two things have been a huge part of my business. And then there's just the normal everyday small business who needs something.
Yeah.
I position myself as marketing basics done really dang well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be the person that if you want something super fancy or trend setting or anything like that, that you come to me. But something that has hurt me business wise is I build really good timeless websites. So where some companies are having to redo their website every 2 or 3 years because they're chasing trends,
Yeah.
I would make a lot more money if I did that. But I've got clients who have had their site for 5 years and they still look modern and up to date.
Yeah.
Because it's just the basics done really dang well.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I've lived. And I've chosen not to do a lot of different things. Like I don't do a ton of email marketing. I don't do a ton of that side of things, PDF writing or anything like that. I can, if
Yeah.
I have a client who I really enjoyed working with and they want me to do that, then I'll do that. But I don't necessarily market myself as doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, after the podcast, we should talk because I think websites are the one area where when I have clients, that's the area
Nice.
that's just not, it's not my,
Yeah.
main area of expertise. And it's like, I love the content. I love the messaging, the strategy, like the stuff that comes right after you just talked about, a lot of the content marketing, email marketing, the, strategy, and some of the execution that goes into that.
But it all starts with the website.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get people hooked in first before you can. And I tell people, and I cut me off if you need me to.
No.
I think a lot of people have a wrong view of what their website's for. Like most people are like, oh, how am I going to get found on Google? I need to be SEO friendly and all this stuff. And the content of the site ends up being garbage because you're optimized for SEO.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, most businesses are referral based businesses. They get their business based on someone who has been their customer before, using them and telling somebody else. And so the website is really there to validate the referral and then get people into the funnel. So if your website can be as good as the referral that a friend gave, you've already made the sale.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to do anymore.
Yeah.
And so if we can make a really great website that positions your company as the perfect solution for a problem, then the rest of it is just fostering the relationship. We're not having to sell anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're relationship building and trying to help people. And I think that's what creates long-term customers more than running the best deal or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or like you said before, chasing some trend of something that seems like it's working right now, whether it's messaging or website or whatever.
Google's going to change their algorithm in 2 months or something and you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious. I want to sort of like get into the next sort of chapter of your story and get into healthy sports parents. But actually before that, because a lot of the clients I work with, and my hope is that a lot of the people that are, listening to this podcast are, from those like mission driven brands and family focused. Famtech is kind of the umbrella, but it extends beyond that. What are over the years some of the maybe nonprofits or even churches where it's you're speaking directly to families or even going outside of that, caregivers, people kind of in that mission driven space. What are some of the things that you kind of picked up along the way that you've learned? Maybe there's examples or stories of clients you've worked with, but is that a space that you've spent some time in and thought about, whether it's messaging or what makes a great website for them?
Yeah, I mean, find a problem, solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. Like, it doesn't matter how good your product is. If you don't solve a problem in a way that makes someone's life better, they're not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
So like you've got to like, and what I have found out is some of the most basic problems that you don't think about have incredible opportunities. It's like, oh, I never thought to solve that problem. Okay. Well, and maybe it's a niche product and it's going to take a little bit more time to get in the market.
Yeah.
But people are so busy today that they are often more willing to pay for something that's going to make their life easier or make their life better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can create a product that actually helps people, price it fairly so that you're not ripping people off, and then tell people how it's going to impact their life in a positive way, there's a good chance you're going to have some success.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring out like, it's not what you think is cool. It's what actually helps people.
Mm-hmm.
And can you help people?
Yeah.
I've had a phrase and like kind of core values for what I do. Like since I started this, it's be nice, work hard, help people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw that on your website.
So like, can you do those three things? If so, we got something we can work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But past that, it's like, if you're in it for yourself, like, I think people are going to see through that. You might have some success for a little bit, but people are going to see through it eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny that, because I'm doing a webinar in a couple of weeks, because I've been having all these conversations with, companies that are trying to reach families, trying to reach caregivers, and, they're overwhelmed and the mental load is heavy right now, for the people they're trying to reach. And so I'm doing this webinar of like, okay, how do you start to think about how to reach them? And some of what you talked about is kind of the whole point of that webinar, because I think a lot of founders kind of have this, they're sort of told over and over, all right, find the differentiator and hammer that home. And it's like the differentiator, like, yeah, they're important, I guess. But like, if you're not doing that thing first that you talked about, crystal clear, what problem you're going to solve. And yeah, you're marketing to people who are overwhelmed. So almost,
do you know what one of the most profitable businesses in the world is?
Oh.
Garbage pickup.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
If you like, garbage companies make so much money. What's their differentiator? They show up when they say they're going to show up and they take your crap away.
Yeah. No one cares about the technology on the back of the truck that compacts it stronger than the other company.
No.
Right.
Show up when you say you're going to show up, do the job, and make my life better. Yeah. If you tell me you're going to be here on, did not mean to do this, but it just happened.
Yeah.
My recycling was supposed to be picked up on Wednesday. We're recording this on a Friday. It did not get picked up. I called yesterday. I was like, hey, was recycling supposed to be this week? Yeah, well, mine didn't get picked up. Oh, I'll give you a call back and let you know why. That was almost a day ago. They haven't called back why, and my recycling bin's still at the street, and it's full. So I have in my kitchen these bottles and cans and boxes that are just piling up because we don't have anywhere to put them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all they had to do was show up when they said they were going to show up. And I get stuff happen, so there's grace upon grace.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't like, come pick my stuff up, take it where you're going to say. So
yeah, can
you do what you're going to, like, I one of the things that when people ask me like, well, what was your success? How did you get to the level? I worked really hard. I treated people really well, and I put out a good product.
Mm-hmm. That's
all it takes. Like, there's a lot of fear and anxiety on the internet of do this, do that, so you don't get left behind. And the same way with the healthy sports parents thing. But it's like, when in reality, the basics are still the basics.
Yeah.
And if you can't do the basics really well, then the rest of it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Whether it's sports, whether it's business, can you do the basics better than everybody else?
Yeah. 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 Sometimes people don't like the simple, obvious answer, but sometimes that's
it's
what
boring.
It is. Yeah. Right.
It's boring. Like, it feels too easy. It feels like anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's what makes money.
Yeah. Everybody wants the secret, silver bullet that only a limited number of people sort of have access to, or you discover it. But yeah, oftentimes that's not reality. Now, this is probably the good segue to healthy sports parents because, at this point in your story, for years you've been, doing really great, like creative work and working for clients and building, a meaningful business and helping companies and nonprofits and churches. But where did that spark come for healthy sports parents? And maybe we got to go way back in your story again, because I think we're probably about the same age and probably both played a lot of sports. So tell me sort of where those different sort of pieces came together.
So, I mean, I mentioned earlier, I was a sport management major in college. I worked for the athletic department, I worked for the football team, minor in coaching. So I was a marginal player. I tell people I was the first person cut like that. I wasn't varsity level. I was the first person cut from the team, like that first level. So I wasn't that good. So freshman year I was on the team for baseball. I quit everything else, was in the marching band and did all the music stuff in high school. But I told my coaches in ninth grade that I was more interested in coaching than I was becoming a great player. So that's always been there for me.
Yeah.
And so ninth grade, I was actually on the team. 10th grade, roster limit, didn't have a spot, but coach wanted me at all the games for JV. By junior year, the coach came to me. He's like, "Hey, I want this JV baseball." He's like, "I want you in uniform this year. I want you on the bench with me in uniform." I'm like, "Okay." And then senior year, I got to do some stuff with varsity, and I went to community college my freshman year of college, and I interned with our varsity program. And so I was at practice every day. It was the one year I was a coach, and it was the furthest our team's ever gone in the playoffs. So correlation, causation. I'm joking. Anyone listen, I'm joking.
Put that on the resume.
I was a nobody on that. But I got to be around our coaches every day and learn how to coach. And then in college, college gets done in May, beginning of May. High school baseball season here in North Carolina, that's when you're going into the conference tournament playoffs. So for the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, I would come home and be at practice and games and stuff like that while I was in college. So I really got to learn that, got to learn from the football coaches at Liberty. So, I mean, that's my background. And then when I was in student ministry with high school kids, they're walking through this, this was 2010 to 2013, 14. So, I mean, travel was getting more and more of a thing then. We had some kids that were wanting to go play in college. So walking with their families through that and talking and hearing the pressures. But what started this was, it's kind of a twofold process. When my kids were 7 and 8, so this was 2 years ago, they were both playing 7, 8-year-old YMCA basketball. And we had a game at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. It was 20 something degrees outside, which in North Carolina is freezing cold. And the dads of this team we were playing against were just going nuts. The two coaches were they're full court pressing in 7 and 8-year-old basketball.
Yeah.
They're complaining about all the calls. The referee was a sophomore in high school. We didn't call double dribble. We didn't call traveling. And so their behavior impacted their kids, obviously, impacted the other families. And so I was so annoyed. I went home from that game and created a hoodie that said youth sports are not about winning. And I wore that hoodie to every game the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So that would have been January 24. Fall of 24, my daughter had a really bad soccer experience. I'll save some of the details. But she had a coach that was overly aggressive for 9-year-olds, overly aggressive for any kid, really. And it wasn't a good experience for her. So that got me thinking about things. And then to end the season, we did this little weekend tournament to cap the season off. And one of the games, I saw a dad on the sideline yelling at his daughter to the point that the daughter started crying. She leaned into mom, and dad still kept going once she leaned in. And what I tell people is I had sympathy for that daughter, but I had empathy for the dad, because I knew he did not wake up that morning saying, "You know what I want to do today? I want to make my daughter cry. I want to make this little girl who I love more than anyone else. I think it'd be really fun to make her cry today." There's no way he woke up wanting to do that. But something in that game triggered him and triggered some emotions in a way that made him lose emotional regulation to the point that he's yelling at his daughter on the sideline of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, I have a vivid memory in 5th grade, so around the same age as these girls, of having to turn to my dad and yell at him in the middle of a basketball game because he was yelling at me so much during. I had to yell at him to shut up.
Hmm.
So I knew if my life hadn't gone a couple different directions, I very well could have been that dad on that sideline yelling at my kid.
Yeah.
So I went home and asked some friends. I'm like, hey, well, first off, because I'm in marketing, what domains are available? And so healthysportsparents.com was available.
Yeah.
So that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
So I asked some friends, like, what do you think of this? And they all said yes. And so that was November of 24. I recorded the first 7 episodes in December of 24.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was released a year ago yesterday, January 8th of 25.
Yeah.
I did a 7-episode trial. I was going to see where this went. The second week the platform was live, I did a reel on Instagram talking about the death of Rec League, and it got 6 million views.
Wow.
And so how'd you build this? I got lucky.
Yeah.
But I went from nothing to 26,000 followers on Instagram in a weekend.
Yeah.
Which instantly pushed this to a new stratosphere.
Yeah.
And so where a year later, it's up over 135,000 followers across social.
Yeah.
I just got invited to a big one-day summit at the Super Bowl about how to keep youth sports equitable and accessible for families and kids. And so this thing has grown bigger than I ever would have imagined it could be. I have no clue what's to come.
Yeah.
I'm writing the Healthy Sports Parents book. So like when we get off here, I'm going back to writing because today's a writing day for me.
Yeah.
So the business has allowed me the space and the capacity to do these extra things in a way to help families, because I am convinced most parents want a better way to do youth sports. It's just no one's ever taught them how.
Mm-hmm.
And the loudest voices are the ones that are pushing for pressure and anxiety. And because it's easier to make money off of making people, the opposite of what I'm saying in my business, it's like, in the youth sports world, if you can make people feel pressure and make them feel anxiety, they're going to give you their money because they're afraid their kids are going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And so, but I think most parents don't want that.
Right.
So I'm just trying to help people navigate this. I mean, it's usually a 5 to 7 year window. Maybe you get lucky and your kid goes on and plays in high school or college. Yeah. But it's usually a elementary, middle school age window. Just helping them navigate that in a way that what I say is, regardless of when your kid plays their last game, ideally you've got another 40 years or more to be their parent. Mm-hmm. So how can we build the relationship that's strong and helps our kid turn into a really great human being? Yeah. If we can do that, then regardless of how good or bad they are, we win.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I want to like unpack some of this a little bit, because I think I maybe saw the post, maybe the one you did yesterday or this week, or maybe there was one a while ago too. And you just kind of said, okay, here's the stats of like, it's been kind of a crazy year building this. And, you just said it a minute ago that it was a lot of luck, but I would argue
luck and consistency.
Yeah, exactly. I would argue it's probably a different version of luck, because you started building it, I think, without any expectation of doing anything, right? You weren't.
So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine last year, as I was building this, she asked me, like, what did I think a dream follower count in the first year would be? Yeah. I said, if I'm really lucky, 10,000. She goes, oh, I was going to say 100, 150 or something like that. I was like, I don't think I'm the type of person that would do the hacks needed to get to that level. Yeah. And I got to 135 in the first year. And it was through consistency, empathy, messaging of like, a consistent message. I mean, I know what I'm talking about. I've got the training there. So I don't want to sound egotistical, but it's like, I am an expert in the field, but how do you communicate that in a way that makes sense to families and connects where they are? So, I mean, it is luck because it's at the mercy of the algorithm at times. And that first thing kind of catapulted me to give me a base that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But then the rest of it has been consistency and empathy and just connecting with people on a human level that, again, makes their life better and helps them with what they want. Yeah. Yeah. And I also try to sort of look at this through the lens of like a lot of the companies that I work with that are
they're building for families, they're building for parents. They are desperately, and I think they would use that same word, desperately trying to reach people and build an audience and be kind of known for something. And I think the trap that a lot of companies fall into is they look at the goal. Like if their goal was, oh, I'm going to have 100,000, followers by the end of the year, and I'm going to have all these, different things in motion of how to tap into that audience. And now, we'll get the book going and we'll go to events. Okay. If that's sort of the North Star and what you're building for, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work out as well as if, that they were to take more of your approach, which is, okay, focus on more of the short term, like really great content, really good connection, really like just smart, making sure that the audience that I'm talking to is at the center of it. And in a lot of ways, kind of keep your head down and just kind of move forward and see where it goes. And then, hopefully you get some of those lucky strokes along the way too.
So I did a reel today. It's exactly what you're talking about here. There is a study in 2024 called The Performance and Psychological Effects of Goal Setting in Sport. And what they found, I'll quote it. They said process, because this applies to like companies, sports, whatever. I think this is a universal principle. Quote, process goals and performance goals produce significant improvements in performance, but process goals elicited significantly greater improvements than performance goals.
Yeah.
Conversely, no significant performance improvements were found by setting mastery, outcome, or ego goals. So the takeaway from it is when we focus on the result, we often don't get the result. Mm-hmm. When we focus on the process needed to get the result, we more often get the result.
Yep.
So in the video, I said, hey, if your kid wants to win, they need to stop trying to win.
Yeah.
They need to start doing the things needed to earn the right to win. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like, so in seminary, I had a class taught by Dr. Elmer Towns, and Dr. Towns was 1,000 years old at the time of this class. He literally wrote the book on Sunday school in the 50s, where he went around and looked at the largest growing Sunday schools in the country. And he was trying to figure out what made those Sunday schools grow and be successful. And he came up with this idiom that I have stolen from him, and I use it in my business. I use it everywhere. But he said, methods are many, principles are few. Methods may change, but principles never do. So the principle here is like, what do you need to do for success? What is going to make you successful? Focus on those things, and then the results will come. So your listeners, like, I don't know what your business is, but what I want you to hear is that the principle that is unchanging is the process matters more than the result. Mm-hmm. And when you focus on, because Nick Saban has this saying that says outcomes are a distraction. You can't control outcomes. Mm-hmm. We can't necessarily control how much we sell. We can't necessarily control how many customers we convert. What we can control is doing the things needed to convert them and going to them and serving them well and creating messaging and marketing that helps make their life, shows how we help make their life better. If we do those things, then more often than not, the outcomes will trail behind those. But outcomes are a trailer. They're not a lead. They're a lag. They're not a lead. Mm-hmm. And so focusing on the process, and in the sports world, I learned this from Coach Rocco, the football coach I worked for at Liberty, earn the right to win. You cannot control whether or not you win. There's someone else on the other side. There are other people in the marketplace. There are X, Y, and Z. You cannot control what the outcome is. Mm-hmm. But if you earn the right to win, then regardless of the outcome, you will have done everything you could to win. And the crazy thing about it is when you earn the right to win, more often than not, you end up winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There, as you're talking, I'm realizing there's all these different parallels between sports and business and marketing.
Sports is life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole thing with healthy sports parents is like, so the name of the book is going to be called Youth Sports Are Not About Winning. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is purpose behind youth sports is to give our kids the tools they need to be successful in life. We're just using games and sports to do this.
Yeah.
And so like, can we teach our kids to be resilient, to go after hard things, to learn how to fail and get up and keep trying, to be a good teammate? Like all those things are what we want out of coworkers, what we want out of employees, what we want out of bosses, what we want out of spouses. Like, so regardless of where they end up in the future, what we want is kids who can do all that. We're just using sports. Some people use dance, some people use scouts, some people use music. Like I'm just sports from my background.
Yeah. Yeah. And another question I had for you, kind of related in this first sort of like whirlwind kind of year of building this and seeing some of the momentum and success, or maybe even in the process of kind of writing the book, did you have any sort of assumptions about the audience, about the parents that you were surprised, things that you found out that you were surprised by that maybe weren't part of the assumption, or maybe it's just like anything that kind of came up in conversations where we go, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that necessarily in the very beginning, but stuff you learn kind of along the way.
I think I'm kind of working this out as I say it.
Yeah.
I know our country's big,
yeah,
but it's amazing how different things are in different places based off of population and local regulations. Like the average high school in America is like 800 to 1,000 people, but you've got schools that are 3,000 to 4,000 people as well. And so like what is true here, like 20 minutes down the road, my local high school is 800 people. 20 minutes down the road, it's a 3,000 person high school. So what is true in my town is different 20 minutes away. But so the methods that we have to apply these things are different. But what has been kind of surprising to me, I think twofold here. The anxieties are pretty universal. Even the healthiest people are kind of worried that their kids are going to they're not doing it right. They're like, I think that's the universal, like, am I messing my kid up from the healthy parents? There, and then on the flip side of that is I've been amazed, and I say this doesn't sound negative. It is negative. I've been amazed at the amount of parents who just have no desire to look at research, to look at history, they have this set opinion of what they think is true, and they are unwilling to even consider a differing view. I knew there would be some of that, but the amount of pushback I get. So it's like, on one hand, I've been amazed that there's so many parents who want this. And on the flip side, I've been amazed that there's so many parents who are just stuck in their feelings about how things should be. Yeah. As opposed to saying, hey, we've got research research is biased. You can make research say anything. Yeah. And they're just unwilling to.
Yeah. And we could probably talk for an entire hour just on that topic of why some of those parents are sort of so kind of stuck in their ways. And I'm guessing it's probably like a little bit of like a multi-generational thing of like we kind of talked about earlier, like how you thought about sports and activities and that when you were brought up. And
I have a take that's a little different. It's a formative piece of my approach to this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think so much of this comes back to the idea of self-love and self-glory. And self-love and self-glory exists in every person. The desire for those two things, they are natural human emotions. Self-love is the desire for others to like us. Self-glory is the desire for others to think we are good at what we do. Going back to the story brand world, like when Don would talk about the caveman, like we want to think the caveman is like when the Vikings come through the cul-de-sac to attack us, we want our neighbors to like us so that they will fight with us to protect us.
Yeah.
So this idea for self-love and self-glory is a natural thing that is just very human based off of the way we are made. But based off of past experiences and insecurities and fear, we often have these different versions of things that we do that are motivated by self-love and self-glory. Sometimes that shows up in the, I want my kid to have it better than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want your kid to look at you in a way that they love you for giving all you had and creating a better life for them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not a bad thing on the surface, but as with anything, the toxicity is in the dose. Or maybe you want other parents to think you're doing a good job, and you think, as a parent, and you think your kid performing well on the field or the court is going to make other parents think you're doing a good job as a parent.
Yeah.
So that's why you push for the extra lessons and the competitive teams before the kid might be ready,
Mm-hmm.
or why you put so much pressure on the kid. Again, if a kid wants to get better, great. If a kid wants the lessons, awesome. But when we're letting this desire for others to think we're good, and it's so subtle that we don't even realize it's there until we dig past layers upon layers upon layers.
Yeah.
But once we get into the habit of saying, like asking the question, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want this? Why am I doing this? Is this because I want people to like me? I think people will like me if this result happens.
Yeah.
Am I doing this because I think people will think I'm a better parent if this result happens?
Yeah.
And once you can become aware of it, you see it everywhere, and it allows
Mm-hmm.
you to just pause for a second, and be like, let's course correct a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what's at the core of so much of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it almost feels like a little bit of like a form of therapy that some people are like very like open to doing that, and some are just not, because thinking like very personally and like deeply about your relationship to, I mean, we're talking about sports. So like for me, I have all these regrets. I mean, I played a lot of sports. I played a lot of basketball and baseball and, some other sports too, but I have all these regrets, about the sports that I did play and when I played them and how I played them. And
well, I hear people say all the time, I wish my parents would have pushed me, so I'm going to push my kid.
Yeah. Right.
But if we're honest, that is just a mask for not taking responsibility for not being able to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we're honest, if your parents would have pushed you, would you have actually responded the way you think you would?
Yeah.
Or are you just masking an insecurity because the reality was at that time in your life with your maturity level that you had then, you just didn't have X, Y, and Z to go do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, the crazy thing is, as I have done the work on myself, I can look back at past Jonathan and be like, yeah, that kid, like, I wish my parents would have pushed me. I wish someone would have taught me how to do this. I wish. But that kid wouldn't have responded to that.
Yeah.
He wasn't mature enough.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the ability. And I can say that with a freedom, knowing that it wasn't that kid's fault. I just hadn't learned that yet.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been taught how to do that. I hadn't gone through the things needed for me and my wiring to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And so I can look back at 17-year-old Jonathan and be like, man, I wish I would have gone out for that. That could have been great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no guilt there because I didn't have the tools needed at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, I mean, same here. My parents, I think, did a really good job of kind of knowing when to push, when not to push, how hard to push. But I vividly remember, my dad saying, hey, you should try swimming, or you should try tennis. Like you should. And I am now, in my 40s, and I think, yeah, I probably would have been pretty good at those if I gave them a shot. Right. But no, I had I was just the dumb 16-year-old, and all I wanted to do was play basketball and baseball. And that was my dream, to go pro in either one. And then you learn pretty quickly that's ridiculous for a lot of people.
I'm writing an article right now for parents.com about the reality of kids going pro and some studies that have come out, and like how to support your kid who says they want to go pro without adding pressure to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's perfect segue to my next question, which is kind of building on what you talked about before, there's the healthy sort of way of looking at this, but like the dose is important. I love the way you framed that.
Because here's an example I'll use just for people who haven't thought about it this way.
Yeah.
Water is essential for life.
Yeah.
But too much water is toxic to our body.
Mm-hmm.
So even the most essential thing that we need on a daily basis that allows us to continue living, if we have too much of it, it is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So good things can be toxic.
Yep. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. A perfect analogy to go with what I'm saying. When parents have that, whether it's the reason they're pushing, it's maybe unhealthy. Like it's like, oh, I've got all this like, unrealized, glory from my younger days, and I'm going to kind of project that and push that on my kids to, do the things that I never did. Or it's like they're kind of pushing for a healthy reason, but they're just pushing too much. What are some of the things that you've come across in talking to parents and other experts? Like, what's the ripple effect of that with families and parents and the relationship with kids that that you've come across? Because I think the obvious one is like kids get burnt out and they quit, and like that sucks because they might have had a lot of fun playing sports well into high school or even college, like not for a team or a school, but like maybe like a rec league or something that would be great for them. And but they're like, no, I'm never playing basketball again. So like outside of that, like what are some of the things that you've come across that are, some of the ripple effects that people might not think about?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to reinforce what you just said, 70% of kids quit by the time they're 13. And the number one reason is because it stops being fun. Mm-hmm. There was also a study once, or a survey once done of Division I athletes that was asked, what was the worst part about your youth sports childhood? And the number one answer was the car ride home from parents. Oh. So what you're talking about, absolutely. Long-term ripple effect though, like I've got a clip that I've posted from an episode that still gets comments every day where I said, and I was taught this by my pastor, who is the dad of a Division II basketball player right now. And he was taught this by someone in the generation before him. But he said, you need to take your kid for ice cream when they play a bad game. But you need to post the picture of your kid when they lose, not just when they win. Mm-hmm. Because what ends up happening is when we only celebrate the results, the positive results, when we only post when the kid wins and we only take them for ice cream when they play a good game, what we inadvertently tell them is that we love them more when they perform well. And I don't think any of us would want to do that. And I don't think any of us consciously are doing that. But to these developing brains who don't have all the tools yet, who aren't processing things in mature ways yet, mm-hmm. that is what we show them. Even if we're doing stuff outside of the sport that shows that we love them in other ways, like when we celebrate something, we tell them that's what we want. Because what you celebrate reflects your desire, the completion of your desires. So like I the other day I was talking to my 9-year-old son, and I said something about like, hey, like because we're doing indoor right now, and he hates practice. He's ADHD through and through, hates practice, loves games. Yeah. And so they did like this little hour and a half thing that he thought was just going to be scrimmaging, but it was really an hour of kind of skills and drills. And I knew he didn't want to. I was like, hey, I'm really proud of you because I knew you didn't love doing that. But Coach Jeff came to me afterwards and told me you were really coachable and that you listened really well and that anything you did or he asked you to do that you did. Mm-hmm. So I just want you to know, like, I'm very proud of you doing that. I'm really appreciative of you, even though you didn't want to be there in that part, you were just waiting for the games. Like, I'm proud of you for doing that because you reinforced what you celebrate. Mm-hmm. And so the flip side of that is if we're always critiquing and criticizing, you could have done this, you could have done that, then we're making our kids feel like they have to earn our love. Yeah. And there's a place for correction, but the way our brains work, we need 5 to 10 positive interactions to make up for one interaction. Dan, you and I have been talking for what are we at? 50 something minutes right now? 51 minutes and 14 seconds.
Yeah.
This has been a really fun conversation. I've enjoyed it. But if right now I said something negative about you, about the way you looked or the way you were talking or the way you have hosted this interview, you're probably not going to think about the past 51 minutes and 14 seconds that have been positive.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to leave this thinking like, man, Jonathan said this. Like, what's he really think of me? And we're fully formed adults with fully formed brains.
Yeah. Right.
So imagine what the 9-year-old is going to think when we're only critiquing and we're only criticizing and we're not positively building them up.
Yeah.
So like, we're not building soft kids or raising soft kids by being positive. We're raising secure kids who know they are loved despite their performance.
Yeah.
And the example I've used, I interviewed Coach Richie McKay, and we talked about this a little bit. When you spend your adult life trying to earn the love of your parents through achievement, you do some really unhealthy things.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine is a Division I soccer coach. Like, he just lost his job. It's not the first time he's been fired, and it won't be the last. But he has told me there's no way he could have reached the levels he's reached without the unwavering support of his spouse and his parents and his brothers and sisters. And he's a 40-year-old man. Like, that is what is giving him the security to go after these big, giant things.
Yeah.
So imagine if he was trying to still earn the love of his parents, or felt like he still had to earn the love of his parents.
Yeah.
Like, my dad went to his grave with me feeling like I had to earn his love and appreciation.
Yeah.
Like, so of course I'm going to pull the other, like, it's human nature, but I'm keenly aware of what it's like to have to work through that process as an adult of, okay, no, I don't have to do this for this reason.
Yeah.
If we can teach kids like, imagine middle schoolers going through middle school, realizing they don't have to earn the love of anyone else because they are loved for who they are. How does that change how they walk through the most awkward years of their life?
Yeah, man, that's huge. If to even imagine that as a way of navigating those couple of years. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think about that a lot. I've two kids, a little younger than yours, 5 and 3. And they are at that age where we're like starting to get them into sports just to see, what do they like? Low kickers and playing soccer or t-ball or whatever, just to kind of see what they gravitate towards. And I'm curious if you have had conversations with parents or experts or coaches that talk about those really early years of just even getting kids interested at all in sports. Because my wife and I joke around. She played a very competitive lacrosse, like all the way through high school. I played a couple different sports, and so like we have some of our best memories are sports, and some of our best friends, lifelong friends, are like through sports. We all this great stuff because of sport, and we have this sort of irrational fear of like our kids never getting into sports. Obviously, they will find other stuff, and we'll still support them and not have it be the thing that you're talking about. Yeah.
Rational fear, by the way, not irrational. That it's a legit fear because it's something that you care about. So I want to give you some grace there.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. But so without kind of rambling, but I wanted to bring up this kind of very personal, selfish thing that I was like, I wanted to pick your brain about. Is that something that you've talked to other parents about, or even just from your own personal experience?
So I got a few directions I can go here. So I'll hit each of these pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is an athletic director at the high school level, has been doing it for 15, 20 years. He says in elementary school, you need to treat it like a buffet. Just go dabble in every single thing. Go up, get a slice of pizza, see if you like pizza. Go get a corn dog, see if you like a corn dog. Go get the spaghetti, see if you like the spaghetti. Treat it like a buffet so that you can experience everything and see what you like and what you don't like. Like, don't feel like you have to go all in on a sport in second grade for fear of falling behind.
Yeah.
I interviewed Stacy Newman Denise, who is a legendary U.S. softball player, played at UCLA. She's now the coach at San Diego State. And she said, if you've got an athlete living in your home, they're going to figure it out. So you can pressure can come off a little bit. Like they've got time.
Yeah.
If you've got someone who's meant to get to a certain level, they're going to get there. Just they're going to figure it out. It might take a little longer. They might be behind. So there's that pressure can leave. But the thing that I go back to that so many people don't realize, did you know that the American Association for Pediatrics has it like actual age scale of what kids should be doing?
No.
Yes. All right. So before 6, the focus should be solely on running, jumping, balance, coordination, and having fun with no real competition. So we don't have to worry about getting them in. Like, a friend of mine's kid was on the 5U T-ball All-Stars, and they won the state championship in Georgia. And I'm like, it's 5U T-ball. Come on.
Yeah. Wow.
But from 6 to 8, the focus is all about learning simple rules, basic skills, and how to be be a part of a group. The competition piece still isn't there in these ages. From 9 to 11, the doctors suggest keeping it about skill development, teamwork, and understanding complex rules, more complex rules. So you're building skills, you're building the mental side up. And then at 12, that's when we add in more strategy, specialization if the kid wants it, and increase physical demands. So what our culture is doing is saying if you're not specializing by the time you're 8, you're behind.
Yeah.
What the doctors are suggesting is that it's all about skills and human body movement in those elementary age years, because that's what's going to create a long-term athlete who has success. Yes, they might be a little behind skill-wise, but again, 70% of kids are going to quit by the time they're 13. So if you get your kid loving the sport and loving movement, then by the time all those other kids quit, they're going to have to catch up a little bit, but there's not as many kids to catch up to because seven out of 10 are gone. So, but if your kid loves the sport, I have a friend who his daughter's a junior in high school this year. So she's in the recruiting process right now. Softball player. She did not start playing travel ball till she was 12. And Brad told me that was an intentional decision by their family because they wanted her to have a childhood. They wanted her to be on the swim team. They wanted her to go to birthday parties. They wanted her to do all this other stuff. He said at 12 years old, she went into travel ball, the most basic level of travel ball, and was behind. But what he saw was that she went into 12U travel ball wanting to get better and wanting to catch up, when half the girls there were tired and exhausted and didn't love the game as much anymore because they've been doing it forever. By 14, freshman year of high school, his daughter had caught up and surpassed most girls. She was a freshman on a 4A state title contending softball team on varsity. She was all conference as a freshman. She's now in her junior year looking at getting recruited to play in college. She caught up. Going back to what Nuvi said, if you got an athlete in your house, they're going to catch up.
Yeah.
So like this pressure of we have to figure it out in 3rd grade, it's not necessarily true. And I get where the pressure comes from, because with these large high schools, if you're not a part of the system, by the time you get to middle school, you're not going to make the middle school team a lot of places. So I get the pressure from that standpoint, but most of these kids are going to quit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be because of burnout. It's going to be because their interest change. It's going to be because they don't want to put the work in anymore.
Yeah.
If you can develop a kid who loves playing, then when the bug catches them, they might have a year or two that they have to work hard and catch up, but they can do it.
Yeah. That's the other weird thing. And this doesn't factor into our, decisions at all about getting our kids to play sports, try sports, just, activities. But our high school that we're at is a very, very big, very well-known sports high school in Illinois. I think it's like consistently in, top 5, top 10, sports high schools. So that'll be a different dynamic from, I think, what I have. I mean, I was at a big school, but it was not a problem, at least making the team,
Right.
So it might be different for our kids. We'll see. But I think your point is well taken, that if you have a kid that loves sports and that pressure is not there, they might not need to be on every team for the school, but there are other ways that they can still participate and, have that same, team building.
Well, the other piece of this is there was a study that looked at more than 30,000 people who ended up becoming elite adults, meaning Olympic athletes, world-class musicians, Nobel Peace Prize winners, all that stuff. And they found that only 10% of those adults reached the highest levels in their fields. Only 10% of those people were standout performers as kids.
Mm.
And at the same time, most of the kids who were elite at young ages didn't end up staying at that level as they grew up. So whether it's academics, whether I was the high academic kid who, I didn't academically go places, but I was that kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So young elite is not a great predictor. There's also another study, I don't have it right in front of me, but it says that elite at a young age is a poor predictor for elite as at an older age.
Mm.
So we see talent in our kids at 6 years old and we think we got to foster it and blah, 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 blah. When in reality, like until puberty, none of it matters.
Yeah. Right.
Love of sport and love of movement's most important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a little cliche, but the whole thing of like the kids who, peak in high school, whether it's like, being super popular, super confident, super, well-adjusted. And then a lot of times the kids are like really kind of struggle their way through it. And they find a whole lot of success later on, getting comfortable with, life or academics or business or whatever it might be. I could see sports being similar. And I also don't have this in front of me, but I think I read one time that some kind of a study of the most successful people in business, and not people making $1 billion or starting companies, but I think it was like really specifically tied to wrestling. Like if they wrestled in high school, that there was something about that they noticed this correlation. And so they like unpacked that a little bit, that it was this, you could be the last person on the team struggling your way, you get beat every match, but the stuff that you took away from that, you were able to apply later on in life. And that was just wrestling, but I think that applies to a lot of sports.
There's another thing that says 96% of female CEOs played sports growing up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
yeah,
sports when done right, teach life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there's definitely something there. And I think it's great. Everything that you're building and you're, sharing with people and getting it out there. Anything you want to talk about, in terms of like we've talked about this a little bit already. You're, writing this book and I'm assuming continuing, with the podcast and some other stuff, but what are you most excited about? What are you kind of looking forward in this year, that you got going on that you want people to know about?
Yeah. The basics, healthysportsparents.com has all the social link, Healthy Sports Parents, wherever you want to get it, social, podcast, YouTube, whatever. So I'm excited for like the podcast stuff, but just on the personal side of it, like getting it, I mentioned earlier, but I got invited to Positive Coaching Alliance's Sports Done Right Summit, which is a one-day summit at the Super Bowl to talk about how we make sports accessible for all families and all kids, because sports have gotten 46% more expensive since 2019. So like I got invited by a church to host a panel forum, for an outreach event for the parents in their community, not even church related. The church is just hosting it, but like, we're going to get a coach and a doctor and some other stuff up on stage. And I'm going to host this panel to talk just this stuff with families of their community. That's a dream of mine to build that out and like just travel the country and do that for different like sports organizations and colleges or churches or whoever. So I'm excited to do that. The book, I don't know when it'll come out, but I'm hoping to have it written in the next couple months. So like, I don't know, like this whole thing has been more than I've ever expected. So I'm just trying to take the next thing in front of me. Hope I can monetize it a little bit this year, because it's taken way too much of my time without any money.
Yeah.
So you know how that is, but and this sounds so freaking cliche, but the people I've gotten to meet because of this, who agree with the mission of it and have given their time to help out. I had a phone call the other day with a guy who has worked in the sport marketing world, and I DM'd him. I was like, "Hey, I got a question. We would love to have some time with you. Like, I'll pay for it, blah, blah, blah." Then I happened to go on his website and realized that he charged like $500 for a strategy session. I was like, "Actually, never mind. That's a little more than I can pay." And he's like, no, dude, I'd love to help. Here's my number. I called him and we talked for 45 minutes. Like he just gave it away because he believed in the mission.
Yeah.
So like that type of stuff, just where this thing goes. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know who it's going to reach, but a lot of people believe in it. And so I'm excited just like for the people side of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's great what you're building. You're, helping families, helping parents, helping kids. And again, I think I said this at the beginning, a lot of the companies that I work with and the people who I think, will tune into episodes like this they are building something for families. They are building something.
We got sponsorship packages.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, I think there's a lot that kind of they can take away from your story and how you built this and sort of not a playbook, but stuff that they can learn from how you approached it and the success that you had in the short amount of time. And who knows, maybe we'll have part 2 a year from now and you'll have a whole bunch of more success in sort of monetizing it and taking it to the kind of the next level. But
I would love it.
But yeah, I really appreciate the time and let's definitely stay in touch because I think your full-time, who knows which one is full-time, but your other, job building websites and working with companies.
The one that pays the bills.
The one that pays the bills, right. That I think there's a lot, a crossover there of stuff that, we might be able to partner on. So yeah, let's stay in touch and really appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.